anticipating a typical evening filled with slick remarks, drama, and shade, only to find yourself in the midst of a hurricane instead. Nobody anticipated it. Whispers are circulating quickly. The video is being repeatedly seen by fans, and Atlanta's streets are humming with just one query. Did Yandy and Rasheeda really let their argument to escalate into violence? The atmosphere was tight as soon as they entered the same space. However, what followed took things to a level that no one had anticipated. There are hints from insiders that this time, words weren't enough. After months of simmering tension between these two powerful ladies, it seems like the pot has finally boiling over. According to others, it began with dubious remarks about allegiance. According to some, it was about respect for family, and a few even think power and money had a major role. Whatever the truth, the altercation got out of hand so quickly that even the producers had to scramble. Online fans are describing it as one of the franchise's most explosive moments. And one thing is for sure, regardless of whether you believe the rumors or not, the animosity between Rasheeda and Yandy has escalated to a point where it may not be reversible. There was certainly a lot of excitement in the air before either lady ever spoken a word. People felt that something wasn't quite right. A storm is building in the set's corner. Furthermore, it was clear Rasheeda wasn't there for small talk as she entered with her shoulders squared and her chin slightly raised above normal. Everyone in the vicinity saw the change instantly as her energy shouted conflict. She looked directly at Yandy, who was standing. It resembled two hurricanes colliding in the middle of the ocean as they moved quietly across the room. Dangerous, inevitable, and inexorable. Rasheeda wasted no time at all. Sharp and tinged with animosity that had obviously been building for a while, her remarks sliced through the tension like a razor. With each charge, she raised her voice and said, "You mock my style, you mock my jewelry, you mock my hustle. You behave as if you constructed this as you go around. You can't discredit me here because you gave me a job. But let's be honest. This is my home and my franchise, not Atlanta." The folks who were standing close gasped. Some others gripped their phones even more tightly, trying to record every word without being caught in the crossfire. Even in a drama-heavy episode, this seemed different. Shade wasn't the only thing, it was war. But Yandy did not recoil. Her stance remained firm, her demeanor remained calm, and when she did speak, her tone was so calculated that it almost hurt more than shouting ever could. "Your home?" she said again, a little smile on her face. "Girl, why are the lights so dim if this is your home? You can't remove the receipts, but you're boasting about titles. The scandals cannot be erased. Legacy and longevity are not the same thing." The room shifted. People were exchanging wide-eyed glances and whispering as she spoke. It wasn't only what she said, however, but also how she said it. Yandy's cool precision was like ice, cutting deeper because it held the weight of certainty, while Rasheeda's rage burned hot and quick. It was no secret that Kirk's previous transgressions had been brought to the public's attention. But hearing them retorted at her by Rasheeda said, her voice shaking with rage, "Don't you dare bring my marriage into this." Yandy was like throwing gasoline on fire. "You call it power, but don't you dare pretend like you're better than me when you've been using other people's suffering to remain relevant. That's desperation, no." Yandy cocked her head slightly, her coolness never faltering. "Desperation? Honey, desperation is holding on to a man who's embarrassed you on national television," she said sweetly, but with a bite below. "You two may keep your throne if it's yours, but you keep attempting to persuade the world that you are royalty." The audience as a whole gasped once again, some covering their lips and others saying, "Oh my God, I don't need it." The room's atmosphere had officially changed from uncomfortable to combustible, and they were whispering to each other. "You're not Atlanta," Rasheeda spat, her eyes widening and her fists waving furiously as she pointed at Yandy with each syllable. "You're not from here. This isn't where you belong. You thought you could rule things when you came down from New York. However, you cannot claim to be Atlanta while wearing a hat. It doesn't operate that way. You're not familiar with the streets. The grind is unknown to you. You're not familiar with the culture. My city is this one." Yandy's serene smile reappeared, her gaze fixed on Rasheeda's. "Funny," she said, maintaining a steady tone. "Because I still outshine you here, regardless of where I'm from. Atlanta wasn't necessary for me to feel validated. Kirk's drama wasn't necessary to establish my relevance. To be honest, your only experience with grind is cleaning up your husband's mess. The crown is made of paper, so you may wear it as you choose." Rasheeda took a step forward as the words slashed through the air. Nearer, reducing the distance between them until they were almost in contact. People in the throng stiffened, stepping back a little as if they were anticipating something to occur at any time. The producers exchanged anxious looks as they discussed whether to intervene or allow the cameras to continue. For whatever was going on, the ratings were gold. Rasheeda shouted, "Say that again!" her voice trembling with rage. Yandy leaned forward and said, "Say it again to my face," in a low but deadly clear voice. Paper crown. A few gasps and the distant murmur of, "Oh, hell no," were the only sounds to break the terrible quiet that followed. Rasheeda felt the need to do more than speak, and her body shook as her fingers twitched. But she held back for a moment. As she attempted to recover control, her chest rose and fell quickly, but the words were too painful. Next came the fans would relive the shocking moment many times. Yandy continued, "You can scream about being queen," her voice falling to a chilly silence. "No matter how hard you try, you can't change the fact that you're ultimately leaving a legacy of treachery." It was a phrase that hit at the very center of all Rasheeda had struggled to achieve, and she stopped for a moment, her eyes sparking with grief and wrath. The crowd's instant response was one of amazement, pity, and protection for her marriage, her family, and her reputation. And amazement at how brutal the altercation had become. Then the atmosphere changed once again, and Rasheeda's voice broke as she yelled back, her fury overpowering her plan, her words falling over each other. "Don't you speak like that about my family? Don't you dare come here and treat me, what I've accomplished, and what I stand for with disrespect." The yelling increased in volume, overlapping, each lady attempting to drown out the others. But I'm not having it. One cast member mumbled, "This is going to get physical," as other onlookers attempted to intervene and urge them to calm down, but their voices were drowned out by the commotion. And like thunder before a storm, the weight of that sentence lingered in the air. Rasheeda moved forward, her face only inches from Yandy's, her aiming a finger straight at her chest. "Want to put me to the test? Proceed. However, keep in mind that when you come for me, you better not miss." Yandy just lifted her chin without blinking, flinching or moving. "Trust me," she muttered, just loud enough for others around her to hear. Her serene manner a sharp contrast to the fire burning in front of her. "Here. I never miss." Panic sprang out as the tension shattered like a rope stretched too tightly. Producers hurried forward as the audience roared, and it was then evident that this was more than simply a verbal battle. Something far more hazardous. As soon as those last words were said, the room fell into complete anarchy. Producers tried to shove the ladies apart by lunging forward, but their efforts just made the situation more chaotic. Cameras rattled as crew members rushed to capture the moment. It was the kind of spectacle that kept viewers riveted to their TVs, rolling without causing a full-blown catastrophe. Fans would rewatch the scene 100 times, scrutinizing each frame to see who went over the line first. Rasheeda's, "You don't talk about my family, you don't talk about my children, you don't," a voice thundered over the din, raw with anger. "Pull my husband into this," she cried, her chest heaving as she